Let's talk about making a better versus mode for Suika game. And I know you might be thinking, that meme puzzle game made for babies? How could that possibly become a good competitive game? It's a good question and it's not actually that easy. One small mistake in the design and it instantly ruins the entire game. One of the problems stems from the fact that it's already a pretty good PvP game. All you have to do is set score in single player, and you're basically competing with everyone in the world with your score. What can a versus mode really offer over the base game? Let's start by taking a look at the existing implementations of Suika game versus modes and talking about what's good or bad about each of them. First, on the Nintendo Switch, the OG Suika game. This version of Suika game offers 3 versus modes. The original, which is basically the classic Suika experience without time pressure, but obviously in online ranked matchmaking, having to wait around without any interactivity between the two players for an indefinite period of time is not an optimal solution. The second mode that this game offers is a time limit mode, forcing you to drop a fruit within a certain amount of time, and they also put a 5-minute cap on the game duration. This mode isn't so bad, but the ending can be rather abrupt, and the speed at which you can move around and drop is still very limited. Despite this, there have been 2 players to get a double watermelon clear in under 5 minutes, so it's not terrible, but the 2 players don't really interact at all during the duration of the game. This is what I think led them to making the final mode they offer, which is the attack mode, where you fill up a gauge based on the points you get, and when you press a button you can drop fruit into the other player's box. The problem with this in Suika game is that one misplaced fruit can kind of ruin the entire game for you. So if we're thinking about how to make an optimal competitive Suika game, any interaction, like damage or garbage done to the other player, should be entirely reversible in an optimal competitive mode. The next game we'll be looking at is WhaleGameOnline, which is a game that was made with competitive matchmaking in mind from the start of development. It's another Suika game where the drop rate is very limited, so you're encouraged to focus on strategy instead of speed. It has a pretty unique combo system where you're given bonuses for matching fish near where you last dropped, and this sends garbage to the opponent in increasing amounts throughout the game. Basically, as time goes on, more garbage is sent. There's also a fever system that can activate if you clear a lot of garbage, slightly increasing your drop rate for a short period of time. WhaleGameOnline, of course, is not without its flaws, and as you can see on the screen right here, I try to set up a combo, and just a huge amount of trash comes raining down from the sky, messing up my box and preventing me from getting that combo. So I think the trash can be pretty crazily random, and yeah, it kind of messes up the state of the box a lot more than what would be good for a competitive game. The trash raining down like this, when it merges into your existing living fish, it just deletes them in WhaleGameOnline, so there are a lot of situations where some trash will fall down and it will just delete the biggest fish that you have in your box, which really limits your combo potential. Overall, with how dynamic the inside of the box is compared to Suika game, it seems like it misses out on a lot of the elements that make the original more fun, and seems a lot less puzzly than optimally you'd like it to be. Next up is Suika.World. It's sort of an exact Suika game clone with an added garbage system. To prevent the garbage from falling into your box, you're given a timer as well as a specific fruit you have to match 2 of together. During this match, I really was unable to prevent garbage from being dropped, just based on the fruit that I was given as options, and the drop speed really limited my ability to prevent the garbage from being dropped into my box. And one of the good things about Suika.World is you do get the ability to choose where the garbage goes. However, in Suika World, the garbage is permanent, unlike WhaleGameOnline. And like I said earlier, I think that even one fruit in the wrong spot can ruin the entire state of your box, and Suika World doesn't seem to really respect that. It also goes against the principle of reversibility that I proposed earlier for garbage systems. You don't want to make permanent changes to the state of the game. Now that we've looked at a few Suika Game versus mode implementations, let's summarize the key lessons that we've learned about what an optimal versus mode would look like. Firstly, there has to be some sort of time pressure to keep games progressing, or games will take too long or become boring. A time cutoff feels a bit abrupt, and it's not very responsive to what happens throughout the game. We also learned that one misplaced fruit can ruin the entire game for a player, so this makes it difficult to have a good garbage system. Something useful to do here might be to look at a similar game that succeeded where these games failed. So let's take a look at Tetris, and specifically Tetrio. In Versus Tetris, the two main mechanics I'd like to bring attention to are garbage coming from below, and garbage being sent to your opponent not being based solely off of clearing lines in Tetris, but also specifically how you clear lines. This how is actually really important in Tetris. Tetris games often give bonuses for clearing lines with a trick called a T-spin, where you spin the T-piece into place while clearing lines, and a couple other things like perfectly clearing the box. This is where a lot of the skill expression happens, and players can get creative about the way they send garbage. Let's see how we can implement something similar into our Suika game. So garbage must come from below. At first this doesn't make a lot of sense. In Suika game you fill the box more and more, and you never get to the point where the box is empty unless you merge two watermelons together. If garbage comes from below, but you can't reach it because there are too many objects in the way, how do you get rid of garbage? This is what led me to implementing a game mode where the floor rises over time, and matching fruit will lower it back down, essentially clearing the garbage. This solves the problem of not ruining your progress through the game, since in reality the ceiling just gets lower and the state of the box stays essentially the same, similar to Tetris Versus. Solving the next problem is maybe a bit harder. How much garbage should get sent to opponents and when? To be honest, I'm not 100% satisfied with my solution to this problem, but it's clear the best and simplest thing we can do is just reward chain merging with the combo system. The game presents the player with dynamic physics puzzles through the various shapes in the game and the random order that it gives it to you in, and the player must solve these dynamically to create combo sequences to send garbage to the opponent. Another example of something that we could reward players for doing is pushing the different shapes into each other to trigger chain merges, but I couldn't think of a good way to implement this and it didn't work quite right. If you have any good ideas for different tricks to reward in the game, let me know in the comments. Now that we've solved some of the major design problems, let's review and clean up some of the smaller ones. First, there needs to be time pressure. This is solved because the rising floor will kill players eventually since it speeds up over time. Second, a hard time limit is abrupt and feels unresponsive to how the game is played. The floor is dynamically controlled by a variety of factors from matching speed to combos and more. And finally, the state of the box can be ruined by a single misplaced object. Since there's no actual garbage in our game, this isn't a problem. The main advantage of being ahead is that you'll have more vertical room to build combo towers, and there will also be more options for where you can place your fruit. With these issues solved, there are some new issues that we created. The optimal match time should be between 5 to 10 minutes, which means fast players might get close to making 2 watermelons. If this is the case, then I don't want to just take the regular box size and go smaller from there, but I want a taller box to start with. Now with our extra tall box, shapes can take a very long time to reach the bottom. I've upped the starting velocity of shapes so they can reach the bottom faster, and also reduce the drop cooldown. But as you can see, a very skilled and fast player playing with these settings makes the game not look very responsive. There are a lot of shapes falling at once, and you often have to wait a considerable amount of time for the shapes to reach the bottom and have their physics settle. To remedy this, for online competitive versus, I made a modifier called Instant Drop. This instantly places a fruit out where it would fall. In private lobbies, you can still choose to turn this off. This mod also lets you drop shapes as fast as you want, and the shapes still spawn with some downward velocity, giving you some power to push other shapes in the box around. You missed out on some techniques that would have been possible with slow dropping, but the game feel improves a lot. You can still choose to drop with 2 different forces. Left click drops the shape with force, and right click places it gently. Now all of our problems are finally solved, right? Well, actually, we just introduced a new problem. Now players can spam like crazy, and if they're lucky, they might be able to match shapes very fast and send a lot of combo damage. How can we mitigate this in a balanced manner? For this, I added a variable I call the messiness factor. Once you get to 15 or more shapes in your box, you start to hit a messiness penalty that maxes out at 30 shapes. This penalty makes your full arrays slightly faster, but more importantly, reduces the damage you deal with combos. If someone spams too much, they might do up to 50% less combo damage. As another safeguard against spamming, the player with the highest score wins, so just spamming to do damage fast will often hurt you if you die too fast without getting a high score. In my best runs in speed mode where I got a double watermelon clear, I would often have less than 15 total shapes in the box at any given time, so that's why I chose this number. But it could be adjusted further in the future. And there we have it, a competitive Suika game with more varied gameplay, intense 1v1 action, that is fair and does not screw you over with RNG and borrows some of the best parts of competitive Tetris. These are the answers I landed on, but I'd love to hear what you would do differently. There are many possibilities. I might make a couple more videos on Suika Shapes. I'm considering doing one about making a skilled AI, or I could just talk about the game design choices in Suika Shapes compared to other Suika games. Let me know what you're interested in, and thanks for watching.